Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Bobbi Barrington, motivational speaker, coach, and storyteller, and who lives and breathes transformation. And we'll learn from her about her powerful lessons on courage, authenticity, and emotional intelligence from her journey of reinvention. Welcome to the show, Bobbi.
Oh, thank you so much, Ajay. It's a delight to be here. I'm speaking from Queensland, Australia.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Bobbi, welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about reinvention at any age. We'll talk about courage. We'll talk about living one's truth. We'll talk about all this. But before that, first, let's talk about a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Okay, amazing. Well, so my name is Bobbi, B-O-B-B-I, Bobbi Barrington, and I am a woman, and I am 66 now, and I'm living in Queensland, and none of that has been who I was before, because I'm also a trans woman. And so I lived 60 years as a man, and now I'm living as a woman, and I am a woman. And I moved across Australia to start a new life in a new body, in a new city, in a new business, as a motivational speaker and as a coach and as a creator of events, empowering events for women particularly. And I've changed everything. Absolutely everything. And it was like so quick in the end. It was just through decisions that I was able to change some of the most fundamental aspects of myself. Like I'd lived my whole life with certain traditions of how life should be lived, how I should do things, and it's all different. It's all so different now. And I'm a kind of a walking, talking example of possibility of change, possibility of creating your own reality, your own destination with decisions and action. And it's not been easy, and it's still ongoing, and I still get triggered. But from being someone who felt they were failing, unsuccessful, lost, losing confidence about who I was and about my future, to who I am now. I am so happy, and I spent my life feeling that I was not a happy person, fulfilled and so very free. Unfortunately, I'm a single woman and I'm divorced and I have children, but I haven't seen them for many years now. And that is not my choice. And other people can make their choices, but I choose me, I choose freedom, I choose authenticity, I choose courage, and I choose to keep on going on this one life that I have, this one fabulous existence on this planet. And I want to live as fully as I can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to live this life fully as you can. How do you want the world to know you, Bobbi? How did you not realize for a long time how you wanted the world to know it? How should people know whether they are what they want to be, or is it something else, someone else that they want to? Because for some it can be very difficult to understand. Tell us a bit from that point of what is it, who you are, and what is it that you want that the world to tell about yourself.
Absolutely, Ajay. Like I say that I have had two transitions. Like I've had many transitions. We are all of us changing all the time. You know, who we were yesterday is who we are not today, who we are today, or who will be tomorrow. We are all transitioning. But I say that I have had like two major transitions. One is my gender, but the other is my mindset. And So what are the signals that told me that I was unhappy with who I was, inauthentic? And my emotions, like I was living a life of fear. I would say most of my life I was frightened, I was lost, I was struggling, and I was certainly unhappy with who I was and my life's conditions. And that was a signal to me to keep looking, keep exploring, keep trying, which I did. And the person I was before, the man I was before, I owe him so much for not giving up, for keeping on trying and keeping on going. He was unhappy and he was frightened. Like I was frightened for most of my life, like because of money, because of insecurity, because of the emotional responses that I had to it. Like I had a childhood that was emotionally challenging with my father in particular, who was an alcoholic, and I ended up like in a career that didn't light me up at all. That expression, I use that expression a lot. What lights you up? What excites you? What fills you with joy? What, and this sense of that we can have permission to live lives that are exciting and fulfilling. Sometimes we live in cultures that don't really believe that that's a thing. You might dismiss it as that's for other people. That's not for me. And I want people to know that it is for them. That kind of life is for them. Like I feel that I create my own reality now, not by what goes on outside of me, but what I have within me, like my self-trust that I have grown, the choices that I make each moment of the day in how I show up in here, out there in front of you, the smile I put on my face, the way I respond to people. These are all choices that I have the capacity to make that create a reality of my own life that comes from within me and not from things that happen outside of me. Like I lost a lot of money recently for it, for example, through legal actions, through, divorce circumstances. And I don't want to let that define me. I want to let that fuel me to, like, where is the lesson in that? How can I grow through that? What is the biggest message that I can take out of that I can share with the world? I get to choose what things mean. So your question was around what was my life like in the past that caused me to want to shift, and it was dissatisfaction. It was wanting more. It was believing fundamentally that there was more for me on this planet than I had been able to achieve so far. And my quest is to keep stepping in the path that I can't see, doing things that I've never done before, scary things, and to manage the emotions around that, going from pain to pleasure, and the emotional management. That, I believe, is the hardest thing for any of us as humans. Not the thing, but the emotions around the thing. Managing our nervous systems, managing our emotional regulation. And this is my daily work. This is the growth. This is where I spend time, understanding me. I have traveled a lot. I've been to India. I spent 6 months in India back in the 90s. I've, ridden on elephants and seen tigers and driven steam trains, and I've never done that stuff anywhere else but in India. Thank you, India. What a beautiful country. and I'd go back tomorrow. Yeah, but yeah, it was just such a beautiful experience. And yeah, like, I think I've answered most of your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just listening to your story, and I'm sure a lot of the world will listen to it. Right now, people are listening to you, and a lot of people will listen to it later on. Also, my question is, let me ask you this way. You talk about, that you are living your truth right now. I want to understand, how do you know, how would you want the world to know about what truth is? How do you know you are living the truth? How should people know about their truth and whether they are living their truth or not?
So for me, I that is about authenticity. That's what I mean by truth, living your authentic self. So I mentioned a little bit about when I was a child. So we all have trauma in our lives. We all have experience through our lives. We all take meaning out of the events of our lives. And in my life, so I say I've lived 26 years in the wrong marriage, 40 years in the wrong career, and 59 years in the wrong body. And, 66 years with a crappy mindset. I am 66. I'm still working on my mindset. But so I worked for 40 years in a career. I was an accountant. I trained in accountancy. And then I worked in project management, business analysis, implementing software. I lived in the UK for a long time, implementing software in the railways, largely. I spent my life doing work that was so dissatisfying to me. Why did I do that? Because of people pleasing my father. And I got pressured into doing accountancy, and it was the wrong thing for me. And then I got stuck in a career that was certainly not fulfilling, and it's certainly not who I am now. I spent my life being introverted, shy, not wanting to stand out, not wanting to be seen, not wanting to attract attention. I spent my year doing work because of the safety of it, the safety of the money of it. When I was little, I found safety in diminishing myself. A lot of women find this, they don't express themselves because it's an unsafe thing to do. They learn that they get knocked down, criticized, told to be quiet, shush, these sorts of things. And so we end up conditioning ourselves, or being conditioned, or agreeing to things that happen to us, and believe that's our truth, believe that's who we are, that's our reality. So for me too, I lived my whole life believing I was an unhappy person, an introverted person, a shy person, an unsuccessful person. And all of this were beliefs that I had about myself that were not truths. That's what I mean by living your truth, that the pathway to that is through awareness, decision, commitment. That's why we need coaches in the world, to see things that we can't see ourselves, to ask us those questions and help us to be introspective and contemplate and what is going on in me, and does it serve me? Is the story I'm telling myself actually my story, or a story that has been handed to me and that I've adopted? And that is the growth point, actually becoming aware, asking the question, making a choice. And that's what I mean by truth. That's what I mean by authenticity. And this me, I am 91% extrovert. I am 6 foot tall. I've got purple hair. I stand on stages and I talk to strangers about stuff. And am I good at it? I don't know, but I do it. I do it. And That wasn't me. This excited, lit up, this me who is passionate and energetic and is really clear about her message to the planet and why it's important. That was not me for 60 years. Now it is. That's what I mean. Change your reality with a decision in a heartbeat, but through questions, awareness, making new choices, and believing that it's possible, not for them out there, but for me. If I can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can do it, everyone else can do it, but they are not able to. People talk about change in so many different ways. Change is inevitable, change is painful, but change is constant. And then there is a whole concept of change management in organizations and all. There are emotions involved there too, but when you have to change yourself, then emotions are a bit more there, either yours or others around you. In your case, I want to understand about this particular aspect of change. Others may think you are leaving them behind, others may think you are abandoning them. You may find yourself, abandoned if you are not living your truth. How did you manage all these things? Who did you have to leave behind? What did you have to leave behind? What did you have to embrace? Who were others who embraced you in your new journey? Tell us a bit about all these transitions, when the change was happening, Bobby, because it's not so easy. You have done it.
No, that's a great question. I don't really. When I was first embarking, I talk about my gender. Like when I was first embarking on that, like I was not one of these people. I didn't know when I was 2 or 5 or 7 or young. I didn't know until I was like late 40s, 50s sort of thing that. And I started thinking, I should have been born a girl, and that recurring thought started happening in my mind, like I should have been born a girl. And from that moment, it was like step by step by step. And I did little things. And I think for 10, it's quite a few years before I went and sought, went and sought a doctor, like started getting serious about it. And all through that process, there were key points. There were key points of decision. There was a lot of internal struggle, about self-reflection and am I being stupid? Am I being selfish? Am I like, is this just a phase? But all the time, I kept stepping and I kept stepping. So that process was, I almost had no control over it. I don't think I could have stopped that process. I went to the next key point. Then it became a project plan. Like I've had a whole lot of electrolysis, I've done a lot of stuff, like I've invested in me and my body significantly. And I am delighted that I have been able to. But in that process, you're absolutely right, because there is a pain and a pleasure, and moving away from pain towards pleasure there's the excitement about the pleasure, like the dream of me that stood on a beach, that was going to stand on a beach wearing a swimsuit with her hair falling on her shoulders, the wind blowing, and as a woman, and like, oh my God, what a dream, and that was something that pulled me forward, and that is now my truth, my reality. I do that. But also there was a grief around the moving away from. And so I've lost my family, I've lost my children, until they decide they want to reconnect with me. At this point, I lost dreams that I had, like the home that I had, I don't have those things anymore. And of course, there's a grief around it. And of course, there's emotions. Like this emotional aspect to it has been the hardest of all. And you're right to draw attention to that. And as I navigate to more and more evolved versions of me, like it's really been quite extraordinary, because like I lived 60 years as a man with a traditional way of managing emotions as a man, which is like which is to ignore them mostly, to suppress them, to pretend they don't exist, to drink or distract or medicate or whatever, and that was my life too. And as a man and with my male friends, we didn't have a sense or a tradition of being emotionally vulnerable. However, now as a woman and living in a world and an environment of women, and particularly the women that I know, and that emotional environment of being vulnerable, not being ashamed, being okay, not being wrong with any of the emotions we have, because we are humans and we have emotions. This stepping from the world I lived in to the world I live in now is astronomically different in terms of emotional management. And my capacity, this is part of what when I was talking about I create my own reality, a lot of that is the emotional choices that I make around how I respond to events, the meaning I give to events, even my capacity to manage and regulate emotions in my body. Now that I've learned about this, and like I get frightened too. Absolutely, I get frightened. And I feel it. I feel it in my body. And I can give it, attention. And I can start to understand what it is that it's trying to tell me. Like when I get frightened, which I do, I just, rather than just ignoring it as being frightened now, I can be curious about it and say, Bobbi, what's this emotion? Why are you frightened by this? And it would be often something that I've neglected, something where I'm out of integrity, a promise that I've made to myself and I've not kept. And my emotions are telling me, Bobbi, this is out of sorts. This is something that needs your attention. And I can regulate it in that way. It's just like, chalk and cheese, the emotional world I lived in before and the world I lived in now. And it's the emotional regulation around change. You were talking about change, like we all go through change. We all go from somewhere that's familiar, safe, to something that's scary, and we don't know if we're going to like ourselves, be accepted as humans, is the tribe still going to accept us? These core fears of us as human beings. And yet, all of us have navigated a whole life of change. And here we are, and we're still here, and it's still all okay. And we've done it before, and we're going to do it again.
Absolutely. So to understand this better, Bobbi, is that having lost all that you lost during this whole process, what is it that you see in terms of the big gain, in terms of sense of purpose? How do you compare it earlier on and now? Have you got a better hold of the sense of purpose of, the whole existence, the living, or whatever we may want to understand it our way, Bobbi?
Do you mean sense of purpose for me personally or for humanity or?
Yourself, everything around you in terms of purpose that you define yourself with or identify yourself with purpose.
Oh, it's massively different. Oh, absolutely. Like I lived in London for a long time, 25 years I lived over there in Western London, and I had many Indian friends out there, by the way. I lived not far from Southall, and there were lots of people, lots of Indians out there, lots of restaurants, and I was very fond of my Indian friends. Yeah, but while I was in the UK, living in London, I did a lot of personal development, and like I've always felt that there was something important for me to do on this planet, in this life, is one life of mine. I wanted to be entrepreneur. I wanted to create something, build something, do something meaningful, something important. And I've always wanted that. And even when at dark times, when it was hard, I still had this sense that one day something was, and one day, well, many one days, there were decision points that brought me to here. But I remember going to some personal development events and looking for my passion. I wanted to know what was my passion and why was I born? What was my purpose on this planet? And I looked for my passion everywhere. Was it behind the fridge? Was it, like behind the cushions on the sofa? Where was it? Is it in the corner? Where's my passion? And I'm looking for it. And this coach, he tapped me on the chest and said, Bobbi, that's where it is. That's where your passion is. And I didn't understand what he meant by that, because I was so in my brain, so in my head. I tried to outthink everything. That was for me was safety in thinking, my intellect, my intelligence, my putting things in boxes, my spreadsheets, all of this stuff was about making my world safe for me. And that brain couldn't conceive this heart-centered passion. Why was I here? And then, years passed. I came back to Australia. I was trying different kinds of businesses and I was just failing at it. And I reached out for another coach. I'd had a few coaches in the past, but I got a new coach. And she got me to just stop all of the doing that I was doing. And I was like working all of the hours, day and night, working harder, working longer. And how can I not do that? Because I didn't have any income. And I got emails that piled up and letters that piled up and calls that I wouldn't answer. And I was frightened because I had 6 years of tax returns I hadn't submitted. And, I was just like so frightened. And she got me to stop. And instead of doing, start being. Instead of controlling, start trusting. And I went and sat on a hill and did nothing. And my unconscious mind, she started bubbling up. And suddenly I started discovering, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. And all of my can'ts, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't statements turned into I can statements. I can do this. I can do this. And she said to me, she said, Bobbi, what lights you up out of all of these things? And I said, I feel that I will make more of an impact in the world with what I say than with what I do. And my words, the leverage of my words. And here we are, I'm speaking to you on this podcast, and it's the words are the tools to help shift someone's grip on a reality that they are holding on so tightly and they can't let go because it's my truth. How dare you take away my truth? And I just say, are you sure? Are you really sure? And we just open the fingers a little bit. It's the words. And then that's where speaking came back into my life and my speaker training. And this is leading me down this path of coaching through words. It's all coaching. Speaking for me is coaching because it's a room full of people and creating little shifts in possibility. One-to-one, you create bigger shifts in possibility, but it's all going from where we are to where we want to go. And we're all the same. All of us human beings. We all bleed when we cut, love our children, and dream of a better future, don't we? Yeah? And that's what I try to do. Help people achieve what they want and have a better future for themselves, their families, their communities.
Absolutely, absolutely, Bobby. So, to put it all together in a nutshell, what is it that you want to tell the world? What is it that you would want to tell the world about being themselves, about living their truth, about living their real identity?
What I really want is for people to open minds, unlock potential, tell a better story. It's all about what are the stories we tell ourselves and the possibility to tell a different, a better, a story that serves us better than some of the stories we tell ourselves. Like even our nations tell themselves stories. Like Australia, for example. It has a certain mythology. Mythology around surfing and outdoor lifestyle and going to the beach and bush rangers or whatever. And like it's a middle-ranking power that punches above its weight. It's all a story. And we as humans, we make up these stories and we can tell ourselves different stories. India will tell itself a story about who it is in the world. And so do we as individuals, so do our organizations, so do our families and communities. All have myths, narratives that we tell ourselves, stories. So I want to unlock that grip on this is my truth. This is the reality. This is the way that I am because this happened to me. And take ownership, responsibility about our life's conditions and change what we don't like. Change, just through intelligent questions, which is what we as coaches do. Ask intelligent questions that help you start to unlock that sense of, oh, maybe life can be a bit different. Maybe that thing that I believed that, I'm not good at maths, I'm not good at sport. I'm a bad parent. I'm, whatever it is. There's a million of these things that I am statements. Maybe they're not truths. I'm unsuccessful. I'm failing. I'm unhappy. Story. Bullshit. Can I say that? Tell a better story, and it's possible to change everything, absolutely everything. Things that you believe are set in stone, and maybe they're not.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn about all this, Bobby, and I'm sure a lot of people across the world, across the globe will benefit from what we talked right now. They will help, and they would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about your story. Make their lives better, live their own truth. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
So my name is Bobbi, B-O-B-B-I, Bobbi Barrington. I have a website. It's bobbibarrington.com, and you can connect with me there. My socials are at Bobbi Barrington, Instagram and LinkedIn. And I trust that there will be links in your show notes. And I just would like to speak for 1 second about something that I am gifting to the world, really, about how to feel alive again. And I created this little self-help guide, this guide of questions to contemplate. And it's like a 14-day little program that people can run through. And there are daily activities in that. And it's called How to Feel Alive Again. And the reason that I created this is not just because of me, because I was at this point. Many people in midlife and earlier and later, whatever, start to feel like, is this all there is? They get to a point, the children leave, maybe the business is not fulfilling them anymore, and they start to ask these questions. Is there more this time on this planet? Is there more for me? And this is about some questions to ask yourself. It's a downloadable free PDF. Just drop your details in, and hopefully we can stay in contact afterwards as well. So anyone who wants to go and click that link and connect with me, and let's hook up together and live in the same world, because it's a beautiful world. It's so abundant and so much possibility, and this has just been marvelous, AJ, to spend this time with you.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.